Landslides, flat tires, and smoky hotel rooms.
Play the theme music. Hello and welcome to this episode of Tripology. I'm Alan and I'm here with the ever alleviated Adam.
Alan, I feel about a kilogram lighter.
Yeah, because in the last episode we were mentioning you've got some gastrointestinal issues.
Yeah, I was a bit blocked up. Not that the listener probably wants to hear that within 30 seconds of starting the episode, but I feel much better now.
Good thing for the listener to hear, I think. I know a few tripologists have been a little bit concerned. I've been concerned. I've been sort of listening at the door of the bathroom. Is he gone yet? Is it finally time?
Yeah.
But,
You've been really concerned. I've appreciated that, actually.
have you?
Yeah, you've been really understanding, because every time I come out of the bathroom, because we're sharing a room, right? For the most part, we're sharing a room. We've only been in a dorm once in the last couple of weeks. So every time I come out of the bathroom, Alan goes, "How was it, mate? Did you, you know?" And
I have been concerned because it's not nice, is it, when you're feeling all constipated, frankly, when you're travelling, and it's a common travel ailment, so...
Yeah, I didn't realise until very recently that it was actually sort of dangerous territory I was in. So I'm very glad that now that's all part in my past and I can get on with my life.
We move forward, yeah. We've weighed you. You are, much lighter than you were previously, and we're rearing to go. You've got more energy now.
Yeah, I think, what would my advice be to anyone listening who has been constipated for a week?
Yeah.
Is maybe just come to where we are, which is somewhere in the Hunza Valley in Pakistan, and gorge on apricots.
You think it's the apricots that did it?
Alan, I've never eaten so many of one thing in quick succession.
Do you think it's more of a cause and effect thing? Do you think maybe it was time after a literal week for you to go to the bathroom anyway, and the apricots just happened to be a part of your life at that juncture?
I like to think it was somewhat spiritual.
Yeah.
Actually.
An apricot cleansing.
Yeah. The apricot detox, is that a thing?
Coming to a store near you.
Yeah.
Well, we left the audience last week not only concerned about your bowels, but also, we were about to get on a bus.
Yeah.
All the way from we just stayed with our friend.
Yeah. We just stayed with our friend W.
Yeah.
Agent W, who was amazing, really hospitable. And he promised us the very next morning to stick us on a bus all the way, being operative, all the way to Gilgit.
We were excited about that because after a time where we'd been going from Mastuj, then ending up stranded in the middle of nowhere, staying with a friend, which was nice, we were looking forward, right, finally we'll get to our destination that we've now been trying to get to for 24 hours.
Yeah, and we were looking forward to getting on the bus. We like bus journeys, the audience know that anyway. And then we turned up at circa 4:30.
Our security guard waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Should anything go wrong?
No, there was a bit of chaos, a bit of melee. It was busy, wasn't it, where the bus was, and there were a few jeeps and stuff. We thought maybe he's sorting us out a last-minute deal to get on a jeep. That'd have been nice, wouldn't it?
Would have been lovely.
And then we saw the bus that we were getting on. There was just one bus there, and I'm not lying when I say I'm surprised it could get to the end of the road.
It looked like blue trash, didn't it? It looked like someone had thrown away a blue washing machine or something. It was just rusty bucket of bolts.
Yeah, it looked like the rubble you might see at the end of a gnarly Robot Wars battle or something. Or someone had basically fabricated a bus out of stuff they'd found in a scrapyard.
Yeah, Robot Wars is good, isn't it? You remember the house robots?
Oh, yeah.
It looked like one of the less intimidating house robots, like one that would be easily beaten.
Just uses its size and weight to bash its way through. So Sergeant Bash, wasn't that one of the robots?
He was. He had a flamethrower and a little pincer on his front.
There you go. But this bus had nothing but what looked like bullet holes. It looked like they'd thought about where the gas goes in after the fact.
Yeah, it looked like maybe they'd sort of tapped to find out where the gas tank was and just inserted the pump straight through the wall.
Yeah, or blown a hole in it with an AK-47.
Yeah.
Made quick
Pakistan's multi-tool.
And yeah, I mean, we got on without a hitch. It wasn't that busy initially, was it?
Empty.
Yeah, we left in good time, and by good time I mean late. And then we hit the road, and it made mincemeat of the way for about 15 minutes.
Yeah, have you heard of nominative determinism?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, that's like when you're called something, so you end up being that thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe you've your ancestors, because of their past, you maybe ended up with the name Cheeseman, and then you've all your life been called Cheesy, and so you end up like making artisanal cheddar or something. You know, that would be nominative determinism.
That's funny. One of my really good friends has the surname Cheeseman. So if you're listening, mate,
make some cheese.
There you go.
And you too can be a subject of nominative determinism. But with this bus, I mean, it was kind of determinism of a different type. It was just, it looks like crap, and therefore became increasingly crap as the journey, almost as if us remarking on the fact that it looked like a bucket of bolts made it slowly turn into a bucket of bolts as the journey went on.
Yeah, it was within about 15, 20 minutes, we started climbing, didn't we? Ascending a huge mountain. Beautiful views, goes without saying. I'll say it anyway.
I'll let you have the window seat.
Yeah, stunning scenery. And then we ground to a halt, didn't we? Because the road got very narrow. And we're talking about like a sheer drop on one side. If you go off the edge of that, everyone on board is dead.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure.
I think so.
And then the bus...
Maybe one person might survive. Like they would maybe rip all the seats out and create a sort of metamorphic cushion with them or something. Quick thinking. But most of us would be dead. And then we were told by the lovely kids next to us, the bus has stopped because the road is too thin because of the rocks and things. It's too dangerous for all of us to be on the bus. So a number of us are going to get off and walk this section. And I women and children stayed on the bus.
But all the men, no, we went out and we started moving rocks, didn't we? It was actually really nice sort of community collaborative experience to be involved in a bit of roadside construction.
Yeah, it was sort of like the opposite of the protocol during the Titanic.
Yeah.
All the men exited the vehicle first and proceeded to move rocks out of the way, watched by enamoured onlookers. We finally got through the dusty section. The sort of bus, the aforementioned bucket of bolts, inching forward as rocks were moved out of its path.
Yeah, it was really quite funny. I've never had to do that on a bus before, I don't think.
Yeah, on the megabus from Glasgow to Cardiff.
Yeah, to get out, because not only was it I don't think the bus, once it had stopped, could actually get going again if it didn't shed some weight. Yeah. So it was a strange thing, but lovely to be walking. Actually, to be honest with you, I was thinking just before then, God, it's a shame we're in a bus and I'm not hiking this route. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, well, very deterministically, you were almost granted that wish again and again and again during the journey, because it wasn't long after we got on the bus that I heard one of the most remarkable noises I've ever heard from a vehicle. It was sort of like a bang and then a series of wisps and whimpers.
Yeah.
And we were informed one of the tyres has just popped.
Shredded, we think.
Yeah, gone.
Yeah.
There is nothing left of that tyre, but luckily the Pakistani government, who have requisitioned this bus, had the foresight to put 2 wheels on every side.
Yeah.
So we're just going to roll with... I mean, basically, the bus had 6 wheels total. 2 on each side on the back.
At the back, and then 2 at the front. Yeah, and can I try and do the sound that we heard?
I'd love for you to try and do the sound.
It was a really cool sound.
You're going to do it with your mouth?
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Thank God.
I'll give it a go. Because it was like...
That's very good.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And we heard it through the window and thought, oh, well, that's a tyre. For sure.
Definitely.
So it was funny when they just said, we're going to keep going. It was really refreshing, actually. I thought, yeah, this bus can tell some stories.
Definitely. I think that'd probably happen to it most journeys.
Yeah.
I think that it loses at least a tyre most times it goes out, that bus, because the road is craggy.
Yeah, the road is quite shit. Not in terms of the landscapes. Just the terrain.
Yeah, no, the road is shit. The mountains, lakes, and all that's beautiful.
If all you look at is the road, then it is shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, up until that point, it was already eventful. And how long was the bus journey? Do you remember we were quoted? I think we were quoted 7 hours.
We were quoted a range of times.
Yeah.
The most I heard was someone say this bus journey to Gilgit will take 12 hours.
Okay.
The least I heard was a straight flat 7.
7 hours.
Which is a variance of like 5 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever do this, but when someone says that, I normally think the lower amount, just so that I'm kind of in denial, I guess. I'm like, yeah, it's probably 7.
And I think the higher amount to avoid disappointment. Right. So between the two of us, we've got one of us will be disappointed and the other will be pleased.
We should have met around sort of the 9-hour mark. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? The 9-hour mark. Jesus.
My goodness, because not only did we have to get out and remove rocks, not only did we have to deal with the psychological torment of a fractured tyre.
Not only did we visit the highest polo ground on earth.
That was good, wasn't it?
The Shandur Pass.
Took a while to get up there, but it was very beautiful. A little break there as well.
Yeah, it's funny when stuff like that happens because I'm not a polo fan. I've never watched a game of polo. I frankly couldn't care less about polo. But then you go to the, sorry, all you polo fans out there. But then you go to the highest polo ground in the world, and you're like, wow, this is so incredible.
Yeah, we were in different headspaces because I think I get very sleepy on a bus. I'm very zen. I was like clocked out. You were filled with awe and wonderment. You were looking around like, oh my God, this Shandur Pass is amazing. It's like, look, is that the world's highest polo ground? Imagine if the two of us could get horses and play in a national tournament. And you were like really curious. And I was just sort of a little bit like, oh yeah, man, cool. But I think, we got through it. I think sometimes you will have juxtapositions of mindset when you're traveling, and your awe put me in a better mood.
I remember thinking this is the perfect place for a settlement.
Yeah, you said that.
I said that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, oh, that beautiful lake, I wonder if it's got fish in. I wonder if I could live here.
What would the mechanism by which a fish could appear in a lake so high? You were getting philosophical.
Evaporated up into the sky and then be rained down on top of the mountain. But no, it is stunning. And I'm really glad for that one reason that we decided to take this bus journey.
Yeah, it was a really great bus journey. But not only did all those things happen to delay us on our route, but even with the reserve tyres at the back of the bus, another boom. And what ensued was one of the wildest tyre replacement ceremonies I've ever been witness to, because we stopped on an incline and tried to replace the tyre of a bus without a jack.
Yeah, it was really quite exceptional. It's in those moments where you think, like, would I be able to do it the way they're doing it? Would I be of any use to this situation right now, or if I was on my own? I mean, we would still be there if I was in charge of that operation.
But yeah, we concluded that we could not be of help, and we simply watched.
Yeah. It was piping hot, wasn't it? Do you remember?
And there was a lot of cooks attempting to spoil the broth as well. I think maybe 10 people were gathered round the bus wheel changing it, and they went up on the top of the roof of the bus to try and get the spare. The spare was in worse condition than the bus somehow. It had a hole in it.
Yeah, it had been shredded, and there was wires poking out of the tyre, the rubber or something.
Fibrous matter coming out.
Yeah.
They lowered it down on a rope,
Yeah.
lowered this tyre down, rolled it over, got it to the place where it would need to. They dug the tyre out instead of a jack, so they could get underneath the tyre to take it
I
off.
started digging a little dip in the road so that they could put it on, and then they put rocks behind and in front, didn't they?
And then at that point, they realised this tyre obviously isn't in a condition to drive. Thank goodness someone else stopped. They were able to borrow a spare tyre from a passerby.
Yeah.
It was a really involved event. I mean, long story short, the bag of bolts bus from Mastuj all the way to Gilgit took, we upwards of 14 hours.
Yeah, it was an incredibly long time, and we didn't even get to our final destination because we were told on the bus that the bus actually stopped at Gilgit, I believe it's pronounced, and that was 3 hours away from Gilgit.
And required yet another journey.
Yeah. I mean, that bus journey for me is certainly the most eventful. It's like, 12, 14 hours, not to the destination you thought you were going to.
Yeah.
And there was a landslide as well. Do you remember the landslide? There was a digger that came out of nowhere and shifted a load of rock.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
there was a complete landslide that blocked the bus at one point, and a digger crawled its way along using only its arm to get to the landslide to clear rocks. I said, I reckon this can be done in 5 minutes.
You said 3, Alan.
How many did it take, though? Only 15?
13 before the motorbikes could get through.
Pretty good. Pretty good, that. 13 minutes to clear a literal landslide.
Yeah, but the thing that was so strange was the rocks were there because there was another digger slightly higher up the mountain that was, breaking the rocks so that they would fall onto the road. So it just felt a little bit like everything was not going to be, it wasn't in our favour, was it?
It was just an eventful, terrible trip. And you have to imagine that the guy that hosted us and the security guard that we mentioned in last week's episode must have known that bus wasn't going all the way to Gilgit.
Yeah. I mean, thank goodness it was in the day. And you've got to sacrifice days sometimes, don't you? I would imagine that you're not a fan of doing long bus rides in the day.
Well, I don't mind it. I just sleep regardless of the time when I'm on a bus.
Yeah, if you could choose night bus and get there in the morning or a day,
Depends on the type of bus, depends on the views that are available whilst I'm in said bus.
Yeah.
If it's a very scenic route during the day, I'll peep out the window, go to sleep for a while. I quite enjoy it.
Just for an experience, if anyone here is listening and you're going to be in this region, like in the near future, I would. Even though it was crazy, that bus journey, it was just thing after thing after thing, wasn't it? And it was great that we were together because we were kind of laughing about it. I would highly recommend it as like an excursion.
Yeah, it was good. It was like a sightseeing day out, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Landslides, tyre pops.
Yeah, Shandur Pass, and it is a really, really scenic route, and it cost us 1,700 rupees as opposed to the
3,500 or something.
Yeah, or 2,500, whatever it was going to be. Yeah, admittedly, we didn't make it to our destination in one hit. But then we got quite lucky, actually, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I'd like to talk about that after the meditation break because I think there's more to come. Let's head off and be back soon.
Amazing.
Like air forced out of a tyre popped on a road all the way to Gilgit or not, allow your conscious mind to return into your brain because now the bus has arrived at its destination, but not at our destination.
No.
Now, I was proud of you here.
Yeah?
Yeah, because you showed such proactivity. I was waking up from my slumber, grabbing my bags, but before anyone else had left the bus, Adam had powered through, kicking old women and small children out of the way. He was off the bus immediately, and by the time I exited the bus, he had already secured us a little minivan to Gilgit. It was already all done.
Yeah, I feel like I manifested it because I remember thinking, I might have even said it to you, just this bus journey has gone so wrong and it's taken so much longer than we anticipated. It's been so eventful. I'm incredibly tired. I'm going to be annoyed that we're not at our destination again. But what I think is going to happen is when we arrive at the bus stop, there's going to be a little minivan with 2 seats on it for me and you. It's going to be super cheap and we're going to walk off this bus onto the next one and it's going to leave almost instantly. And that is pretty much what happened.
It was.
So,
but like with all manifestations, you take the rough with the smooth because it was the perfect vehicle, but not the perfect passengers in said vehicle. Because, I mean, we're crammed in. It's like 4 people to a 3-seater bench.
Yeah, please don't think there's any space in that vehicle.
That might not sound that bad. 4 people on a 3-seater bench. If maybe there's 2 thin people, it chalks up to the same. No, you're all pushed against the doors. Adam was half out of the window.
Yeah.
And next to me was a man who answered and took more phone calls within a 40-minute period than anyone I've ever met.
Than someone working in an Indian call centre.
It was crazy. Yeah. It was like it was his job.
Yeah.
And as the second one phone call finished, he was dialing up another number, and he answered the phone in such an unusual way it will forever be burnt into my mind. It was sort of a nasally hello.
It was amazing. Yeah, I'm sure there's an American comedian that sounds a little bit like, isn't it? Like Raymond or something I'm thinking of.
I don't know, mate, but it was so loud and visceral. I was dreaming about it when I went to sleep that night. It was so penetrating, and me and you just couldn't help but laugh because you might think, oh, he's answering the phone, hello guys, it's not that crazy. Try 30 times over the course of a 40-minute trip.
Yeah,
it's incessant.
I do think that anyone who's been to India will know, right, from their own experience. We haven't really seen it in Pakistan a lot, but some people do talk on the phone. China, I heard it as well. So much louder than you've ever spoken on the phone in public places as well.
Yeah,
I've never
as if
got
it
that.
helps.
Yeah, and it was so funny. It was just call after call, and then we'd have a bit of peace for maybe 10 minutes, and then I'd be looking out the window. I'd almost forgotten about it, and I'd just hear this, hello, and then I'd feel you shaking next to me. It's so funny.
But the process for me was I went from like being ambivalent towards him to then really being annoyed by him, and then thinking, fucking hell. I mean, it takes some confidence because he must know that when he answers the phone, every 5 seconds, everyone on the bus is turning around, laughing, doing stuff. So he was just living his life. And his life at that moment, he was like, I've got 40 minutes to play with here. Let me call 30 people in my life that need a catch up.
I know. Yeah, it was crazy. And even that bus journey didn't go to plan either, did it? We thought we were going to get there in good time. We didn't. The driver, he was like a rally driver.
He was.
It was crazy. There was so much construction, so much dust. Scenery again was quite amazing. But as the sun set, we popped another tyre.
Yeah, we did.
The boys jumped off the roof. There were some people hanging on for dear life, no doubt, and they jumped off the roof, whipped a new tyre on in like Formula One,
Very quick.
less than 3 seconds, I think.
There were people riding on the roof of the minivan, like sort of at a rodeo. They were going, woo! Every time we drove past another vehicle. It was great.
It was quality. But then we got to Gilgit very late, actually, didn't we?
Very.
Yeah, and we didn't really know what the options were in terms of accommodation.
Well, mate, this was a moment for me where, very much like our time that keen-eared listeners will remember in Ahmedabad.
Sure.
We ended up getting to Ahmedabad late without a booking, and we ended up homeless for the night, didn't we? We had to sleep in a hospital.
In a hospital canteen, which was outdoors.
I didn't want that to happen to us again. We have no signal on our phones here. We're in the mountains.
Yeah.
So I found some people walking. I think we're on our minibus, actually.
Yeah.
And I pursued them down the street and said, listen, guys, if you speak English... I didn't say, hey, guys, do you speak English? And wait for a response. I gave them the whole piece in one. If you speak English... we need your help. We are currently without accommodation. Can you help us? And of course, in true Pakistani hospitality and kindness, he moved hell and earth to find us accommodation. He walked with us all the way to a hotel. He went to the hotel, negotiated us a price, and found us a place to sleep that night.
Over and above, for sure.
At that point, that was our only advantage. No SIM, no knowledge of the area, no hotel booked.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that guy, we would surely have been sleeping in another hospital.
But yeah, we never would have found that hotel. I'm sure there are lots of accommodation options there. But it was a real godsend because it was probably 10:30, if my memory serves me correctly.
I was a bit perturbed by the cheap price that was offered to us. We were given a private room with 2 beds for 1,000 rupees, which is how much?
£3.
Which is very cheap.
£2.80, I think it is at the moment.
Very cheap for a private room. And I actually, I'm not going to say too much negative about it because we stayed there for a couple of nights because it was so cheap and fine.
Well, can I, though?
Yeah, you can.
I've always wanted to say this on the podcast.
Okay.
I think the hotel, this is how I would have said it. This is how I probably did say it to you at the time. Okay. And this is definitely, if I was talking to my dad, this is how I would say it. It was a shithole.
Okay, I agree. I mean...
it is definitely what you would have said as a joke or otherwise. Of all the places we've stayed since we've been travelling together.
Right.
It has to be. We still slept there for 2 or 3 nights.
Yeah.
It's not like we're against sleeping there.
Yeah.
But it was crazy the condition it was in.
I thought we were going to go on a tack of like, a bed's a bed, but shithole. Yeah. It had cigarettes under the mattress. It had playing cards under your mattress. Gambling.
Yeah.
And then there was no real, it was...
Well, let's start off by saying that was the second better room that we visited, that we were offered.
Because the first room had a balcony door with no lock on. It was just a portal to the outside world that anyone could have got in through.
And it wasn't like we need a lock. There was a lock. The
latch was missing.
The latch was missing.
So
that was
it was
right.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone had stolen the latch.
Yeah.
Which made me think maybe that person will be back to steal more.
Yeah. Yeah, it was so funny. But it was a smoking room as well. Neither of us smoke. And it was like someone had recently smoked a packet of cigarettes in there.
And Adam works in the wine industry. He's got a very sensitive nose. He's got the opposite of anosmia. He smells very, very well. And to smell the smoke, it perturbed you. I'm somewhat hypochondriac, and I was a bit worried about bed bugs, so I was up in the middle of the night checking for bed bugs.
Yeah, because you had a bite on your arm that you said it's almost certainly a bed bug bite.
Very suspicious. 3 dots in a row. We all know, all the tripological audience know, 3 dots in a row. That's bed bug woe. There's a problem.
That's so the rhyme goes.
I got up in the night, and this is a great tip for any tripologists listening, because I have never suffered from bed bugs once, because I do this little trick.
Yeah.
You peel back your mattress topper.
Yeah.
And you look in the seam of the mattress. You get your 2 thumbs, peel back the seam, have a look. You will see them. If there are bed bugs there, you'll see them like tiny little dots running around your bed.
Cool.
Failing that, you lift up the mattress as well, have a look under there. If you don't see little black dots like the black bits in bananas but running around, You've not got bed bugs. It's all in your mind. Go back to sleep.
But that wasn't the only issue, was it? We were sitting there like kind of itchy going, do you think there's bed bugs? Well, I've checked, but I probably should check again. Oh yeah, but I do feel really itchy. Oh, this is rank. Oh, this is so horrible.
We got real bed bug hypochondria to the point where we're like, do you think the fan is moving the hairs on our legs and that's the itchy feeling that we're feeling?
Yeah, and even the fan, that went off at some point because the electricity didn't work half of the time. There was a light on in the bathroom that we couldn't switch off. None of the light switches in the whole room or the bathroom switched off the light, and I tried to undo the light bulb and burnt my hand.
Even when the power went off in the building, the light bulb in the bathroom remained on, as if it was connected to a whole different set of circuits.
Yeah, it was a very, very sort of very, very budget hotel, and it did the trick. To be fair, it's one of my more testing stays. I think it just felt quite grubby and dirty, and you know me better than anyone else. I'm fine in situations like that. I'll sleep there.
Yeah,
but I think we could have afforded somewhere better.
But that's the thing, because our hotel room was such a catastrophic pile of shit. It meant that we spent a lot of time out and about in Gilgit.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about travelling, but you go, I'm a bit of a homebody, sometimes I like to stay in, purchase the crappiest hotel room that you can, and then you'll be forced to go out into the world.
Yeah, it's not a bad tactic, is it? It's quite funny. It was so ridiculously cheap that it freed up a little bit of money for some nice food. We had some great food.
Really good food in Gilgit.
And we walked around Gilgit for, how long was it before that lovely gentleman approached us that stayed with us for what felt like 6 weeks?
We were exploring Gilgit. We were having a whale of a time. Yeah. We were trying all the local dishes. We were sorting out, doing some errands, ready to go up further into the mountains.
Yeah.
And they were approached by a gentleman who basically said, oh, hi guys, where are you from? Now, I normally, as a traveller, have quite a jaded response to this kind of character.
Yeah, well, we'd said hello to him earlier in the walk. Do you remember? Sort of caught his eye. Oh, hello. You obviously know that we're foreign. Nice to meet you. And then we carried on walking.
Yeah.
And then he caught us up about 5 minutes later, and I thought, here we go.
Yeah, and normally I'd be like, yeah, thank you, man, cool, nice to meet you, and go off. Now, you might be disappointed to learn that, but I've been jaded by 6 months of being approached constantly whilst travelling around South Asia. But Pakistan has lulled me into a false sense of security by such abject kindness and hospitality.
Yeah, fair to say.
So this guy kind of worked his way into our lives. You know when the conversation's over, but someone continues to walk with you?
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, we're thinking about going back to our hotel. And he's like, yeah, cool, but let's go across here first. Let's do this first. He stayed with us for hours.
Yeah, it was hours. And we obviously want to be very polite. I think he mentioned a few times that he's a tour guide. So we already thought maybe there's a hidden,
bells are ringing.
Yeah, maybe there's a hidden agenda here. He's going to try and see if we want to go on a tour with him the next day or whatever. He was very lovely, but there were maybe at least 50 times when there was an opportunity to part ways, to leave the conversation. The conversation went flat. We said we'll maybe go and do something else. We take his number, whatever. And then we just kept on going. And I thought, I don't know how we're ever going to shake this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in that situation, like, maybe it's better reaching out to the audience and saying, what do you think the best course of action is? Because you want to be sensitive. You want to be polite. It's very lovely that he's interested in what we're doing. And it wasn't like the conversation was only flowing in one direction. We were talking to him a lot. He did take us to some lovely spots. Yeah. Nice to hang out with for a while. But when it gets to that time where like me and you just want to go for a little dinner and go back to the hotel, what's the best way to say, thanks, mate, but we're now going to leave? Because I think we kind of feel like we said that multiple times and he stayed with us.
Okay, yeah. If you're listening to this show, maybe we always ask for you to send travel stories, ask us questions, all that stuff. But maybe you've been listening to the show for a little while, like so many of you do. Thank you for listening. Head over to our Instagram. It's at tripologypodcast on Instagram. And we want you to send us a message saying, what would you do in this scenario? Maybe you can, let's some options. You can either just run away.
Yeah.
You could just insist. You could feign an illness. You could just, or are you the kind of person who would just stick with him for the rest of your life? Perhaps get married, start a new life, a new relationship. But in this situation where somebody approaches you, they're very friendly, they're very nice, but we had stuff to do that day.
We did. We were busy.
He wanted to follow us to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation? At Tripology Podcast, send us a direct message. Every single person who does that, we're going to reply personally to and say, we'll have a little bit back and forth, a debate.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from you. And it's probably a good time to say, I don't know if we're going to tell this full story on the podcast on a future episode, but we recently were picked up while we were hitchhiking around Aliabad, Karimabad area by a lovely gentleman and his driver. He then offered us on the way, look guys, I know you got things to do, but would you like to come back to my home, my summer house, and have a cup of tea?
Yeah.
And we thought, oh God, we left a little bit later than we thought, but this is a really nice gesture. Seems like a very sweet man, lovely property, beautiful trees, garden, all the rest of it. What a nice thing this is. So we went in, we were probably there for about half an hour,
Yeah.
spoke to him about his family, where he's been, what his daughters are doing, all this kind of stuff. Really interesting guy. We had the tea, and within 5 minutes of us finishing the tea, he said, all right, nice to meet you. Have a good day. On your way.
What a perfect interaction. If only the world was so straightforward.
Yeah, there was no awkward, like, is there a certain amount of time that's polite to leave it before you get up and go? Or, like, are we just staying for lunch now? He had mentioned a barbecue in the evening. But I get, like, I do experience anxiety even when I'm leaving a party.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to say goodbye to everyone and feel bad for leaving or whatever. But I have got friends who just when they're done, they go, all right, I'm off. And you're like, oh, all right, see ya.
But that's
and
nice,
and
isn't
it's
it?
fine.
It's totally fine. I think that a lot of English sensibilities would be offended by him going, all right, yeah, see you now, after having such a nice introduction.
Yeah.
But that for me was perfect. He was like, I've been kind to you.
I've invited you into my house. We've had tea.
And I've got you to where you need to go.
Yeah.
Now off into the night.
It's just taken in such a good way. It was, again, really refreshing. It was like, okay, wow, that was quite abrupt,
Yeah.
but I feel nice.
Yeah, absolutely. The perfect end to a perfect trip and a perfect episode hitchhiking around Aliabad, Karimabad, and now up to glaciers in the Hunza Valley. We're still journeying through Pakistan. We're sharing it all with you. On the next episode, we're going to descend into a glacier, and goodness me if we don't get up to some crazy, crazy adventures there. Email the podcast, tripologypodcast@gmail.com. We've already given you the Instagram at tripologypodcast.
And then we've also got Patreon. My goodness, lost and found. Patreon.com/tripologypodcast.
Comes out 24 hours early, and it's all sorts of bonus behind the scenes stuff where we talk about how we really feel about stuff when the episode's theme music ceases. Head over to Patreon to see that. But for now, we'll see you next week.
See you there.
Bye.